going to put on. I'm also going to put on AI companion, so we'll have a recording. I mean, the AI companion. Uh, Andrew
That was pretty neat to see that summary. Yeah.
was good,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah, but I'll still do the video recording because sometimes it doesn't pick up,
Mm.
and it's an option. I mean, I love the closing light calling in that we did last time. So it'd be the last few minutes. It would be nice to hear it again. The energy of it would be nice to hear,
Yeah.
even if we didn't hear the whole thing. Okay, come on, Andrew.
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm gonna leave at 10:30, because I've got a tax appointment
Oh, what fun.
this morning.
That's the end of our time anyway.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should call in the light, include it, and include Andrew.
Here he is.
There he
There he
is.
is. My apologies.
All right. You get to call in the light, Andrew.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Are you okay with that?
Father, forgive me, for I know not what I do.
Okay.
Uh, Gracious, loving Father, Mother, Lord God. In this moment, we give thanks. We share our appreciation for your presence and our awareness. We give thanks to John Roger and John Morton and to Jesus. And through them, we ask for your light and your love and your sound, that it may be with us, within us, without us, and all around us. And so we open ourselves to guidance and goodwill going forward, and ask for a blessing on this meeting for the highest good of all concerned. And so it is. Irish Bishop.
Irish Bishop.
Okay. We're here today at this time because all of us, one way or another, are involved in the Transcendent Leadership Program. Just thought I'd establish our bona fides.
Yay. And I would like to say how grateful I am for each one of you being in this group, holding the light for Windermere, and just your energy makes a difference. And I thank you and I'm grateful.
Well, and Linda, I would like to say thank you for being that connection for us into Windermere and sharing with us how valuable we are, as a group that's focusing on Windermere's welfare. Um, it heartens me to know that we're noticed, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, ditto to all the gratitude. It's true, just coming together as transcendent leaders is a it's a powerful action. I think it lifts everyone. Um, yeah.
I'm grateful for the blessing of having this time together as a TL team and also reawakening my awareness of and love for Windermere. And although I'm a long way away from Windermere at the moment, there's no distance. I still feel the presence of Windermere and the incredible blessing that it is, I think, and is through expansion will become more so. It's just this is the pushy side of me saying, but I think that's happening anyway. The loving, the volunteers that are present, and yeah, the more loving growing there.
So
I
one
had
thing, yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Andrew. Sorry. I mean, Matthew.
No, no, you first, please. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
it occurred to me that the abundance for Windermere can come in many different ways. And one of the ways is just loving and holding the focus. And those donors, or it's like, I'm aware it doesn't necessarily have to be from grants and it could be, but it could also be from people who love it and who want to give and create that legacy fund that we're holding for.
Mhm.
And who knows, the time is not time is in our favor. Like we have very long the rest of our existence here on the planet, and Windermere's existence on the planet is like it's just there's an openness.
Mhm.
I was looking at the newsletter that David put out before, it was before the birthday party. And he talked about, I get the title that he gave the account, I think it's a Peace in Windermere or something like that. And I thought, oh, or Peace Fund or something. And I thought, oh, yes. And and it was just so beautifully put together. And look what it produced. And it wasn't about funding, it was people who just out of the loving in their hearts wanted to support it.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to share that I had a great time visiting Windermere last week with taking someone who had never seen it before. You know, that's the cliche that what's better than having something you love is getting to share it with someone else.
Mm.
And he got it. David was delighted. David Randall was just delighted by everything, and we walked the property and we showed him the Wailing Rocks and lay on the rocks and he experienced the energy of that really deeply and didn't want to get up.
Mm.
And we walked, to the barn, went inside the barn and we saw the garden and stayed in the bunkhouse. It's just so beautiful right now. Um, Talked a lot about all these possibilities as one tends to when they come to Windermere because it's so open, it's so vast. On many levels, I think there's something very that's part of Windermere's charm is it doesn't there's not a whole lot of structure necessarily that gets in the way of just the openness to dream, to visualize, and um, so he was just delighted by the little cave, that you open, you can crawl into the cave and you can stand up and
Mm.
uh, he said, you could have tours to this cave. You could do an Airbnb. People would pay tons of money to go to that cave. I was just like, yeah, okay. So, um,
That's probably true, Matthew.
it's probably true. It's probably true. Well, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, which just makes it fun. And apparently, someone was saying that's where the woman who uh, inherited the property, who owned the property for a while, that she lived in that cave. I don't know if that's true, but
Hmm.
somebody was telling me that. So it makes a good story. And um, I showed David Randall the list of grants that Andrew had lovingly prepared for us, and I wrote up a little blurb even to apply for one of the mid-range ones that seemed like as just an inquiry. But as I did that, I kind of got that it was not, um, in some way, the energy wasn't supporting it.
Hmm.
Um, Likewise, we had set up a meeting with David Whitaker, and he postponed it to dinner, and then dinner was so lively and full of kids and food and activities that we actually never really did talk about the grants at all. And I think that's indicative right now of what's going on. I don't think the energy is behind these grants. I don't think that's really where uh, we're being guided, directed. And I could be wrong, but that's just my impression. And if it does, I talked to Mark about it briefly, and he said, he'd never had much luck with grants because it's a church, and people want to give to nonprofits. Uh, so that was the thing is, if we do want to go forward with grants, it would have to involve one of the presidents, I think, or all of them, because there is no board for IIWP. It's basically completely under uh, it's a completely under MSIA, and if we're going to start applying for stuff, it would need to go through them on some level. So that was my big epiphany. Uh, Meanwhile, JR told John Lee, if you all know who he is,
Yep.
from the early 70s, when you take somebody to Windermere, the karma of the planet shifts. So just going up there with uh, with people, showing them all the beauty that's there, all the good work that's being done, I think that's a huge, huge blessing. I certainly felt it just spending the night. So that's my piece.
So did you consider that the seed.org uh, mentioned among the clients they've assisted churches?
I did, and you're right. If we want to do fundraising, crowdfunding, that would be a good way to do it.
Which one was it that you had started to write up where you felt it wasn't appropriate?
Um, Started writing the regenerative uh,
Garden.
agri agriculture something something. It's a group that it said you can inquire and talk about your place, and if it's by invitation only, and if they like you, they'll invite you to apply for a grant. So they featured a couple people, a couple gardens on their website they have supported. It's based in Minneapolis. I can't remember the name right now. And I thought, oh, what the hell? I got nothing to lose. But, which is true. We could still send in an inquiry. I just don't. David Randall was saying, well, don't use Windermere's name unless you uh, really provide specifics. So he was discouraging me to even make an inquiry yet.
Mm.
Because then anyway, that's where that's at. Yeah.
So his thinking is that if you provide specifics, that that's a negative.
No, he said don't use Windermere's name, don't use Ida, because basically he didn't want to risk getting stuck on their do not call list or something um, without.
Because it's a church, because it's connected to MSIA.
No, because as an inquiry, he was nervous that if I started talking about Windermere and they went and looked it up and they didn't get a full sense of what we're talking about, then they would say no, and that would be it.
So he
So it
wants
wasn't.
us to keep our powder dry, as it were.
Uh-huh.
Not that that's not an appropriate place to consider, but that we should make sure we have our ducks in a row
Exactly.
when we
Get
do it.
everything settled before you make an inquiry even.
Yeah, which sounds like professional advice,
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And perhaps more things have yet to evolve before we're ready to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perhaps.
I agree with that too, just to make sure what Andrew said, ducks in a row. It's like we don't have to jump in and do anything right now.
Yeah.
It's just this is such an investigative phase, and we had the time period for this meeting to these meetings to just be 3 months, and I don't know if it's not reasonable to expect that this whole thing is to
No, it's a longer term vision that
be,
we're looking
yeah,
at.
it is a longer term vision.
Yeah.
And whether that's in the scope of this meeting or not, that's for us, you all to decide, all of us, and to see if we keep going or we don't. And just maybe keeping on holding the light is what we decide to do, or maybe some of you are into this investigation and that something will most likely come of it if we keep on going with it, but we don't know. Or the whole idea of donation, the GoFundMe kind of things.
I think what Matt has done is a wonderful example of how the word can spread in this little step at a time, because obviously David Randall got so much out of his visit, and it wasn't talking about the funding arrangements. It just he lit up with the possibilities of Windermere, and maybe that just every so often we know that there's a person who we would like to introduce, and then they get something from it and they're inspired to contribute in some way, maybe an idea, or it may include money.
Yeah.
He did say, anytime there's I told him about the work parties, awesome work parties that you host, and he said, "Oh, I would love to come to one. I'd love to work in one." And um, yeah, he's really keen to come back.
Is he back in LA?
That's
He's at
he's
Prana right now. He
he
stayed in
lives
Prana.
at he lives at Prana, right?
Yeah.
He just moved in like a month ago or 2 months, and he's
Yeah,
only on his first discourse or
yeah,
second.
yeah,
He was staying across the street. Matthew, you know his story. You want to say
yeah.
more? And meeting him,
Yeah.
I
No,
just want to say
Matthew.
one thing about how I was flabbergasted having been with him about
Yeah.
what he knows about Grant. I mean,
Mm,
it's like, wow, that's his territory.
Yeah.
mm,
No, I was inquiring. Matthew introduced him to us last time. I was
Oh,
inquiring as to whether his plan was to return to LA to reside. You said he'd been in Seattle for some period.
I think he's sort of figuring things out. He just extended his stay here for another month.
Ah,
So I think he's
yeah,
kind of working things out, and he's really experiencing, the energy of the traveler. That's
yeah,
what I would say.
yeah. He just came in.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Like
Well, I'm wondering if it makes sense. I was looking for a way that we could have some, besides this wonderful experience with David Randall, is that his first name, David?
Mhm.
Yeah. That, what if we did pursue the crowdfunding and then, at the same time, set our vision for something long-term? And maybe long-term is just inviting people to go to Windermere. Maybe it's talking it up to, I don't know, but that's an idea I had, just something short range that could that we could support, and then a long range goal. Because I don't want to, I don't want to end the focus of this group after 3 months. Because I think the focus is really important to continue. So any thoughts on that, B?
I'm also happy to continue.
I'm sorry, say again, Anne?
I'm also, like you, I'm also happy to continue with the group beyond the time limit that we can. And just be open to how Spirit provides something in Spirit's timing, like David Randall and another person like that,
Mhm.
or other plans that Spirit has that we don't know about yet.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, one thing that would be nice to hear about, from my point of view, Linda, is how you enjoyed your trip to the cow farm.
Cows.
Okay, but before I go there, Andrew, you've hardly had a chance to say anything, so I'm
Mhm.
wondering if there's more you want to put in here, and then I'll talk about cows if they're at the end.
Well, just taking off on what Carol was suggesting, um, perhaps we could take another look at this seed.org, which is you know, you have to be accepted by them.
Mhm.
They're very small grants. It's a crowdfunding platform. You have to use their platform. And the crowdfunding is only for about 6 weeks. And they match $1 for every, I think it's $8 or $10 that you raise. What you get from them is their expertise in presenting yourself, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, so the question I would have is if we wanted to lean into that, uh, would it be does it make sense to ask David Randall to take a look at it uh, and give us some advice about starting with it, or just approach it the way anybody would without uh, professional grant experience, and just see what the criteria are and see if we can fill it. And as Matthew has said, if it means pulling the presidency in and uh, more involvement from others than us, then we can look at that ahead of time and decide whether that's a request we want to make. Um, so that was my thought before we heard about the cows. I'm quite proud of myself for setting up we just returned from the city of Mirepoix, Deschutes, where the town dump. and,
Oh,
and they're selling compost bins for 22 euros that you put together.
All right.
So I was down in the lower end of our garden putting it together when I totally forgotten about our meeting and had some
You were
gracious.
you were picking up on the sustainability uh,
Uh, well, that's
value of
right.
Windermere.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
I pose another question, which would be, do we want to invite David Randall to join this group? Or can we? I don't know if it's been TL supported, so I don't know.
Well, certainly after the 3 months, it's an open group.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a question about the exclusivity or the aspect of us as initiates and ministers in TL coming together to do community support that um, may influence that question, the answer to that question.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
But
Joni would be the person to ask.
right. And he could be a good consultant, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Yes, that sounds clearer.
And I think, uh, anyway, let's just keep those as ideas. I don't think
What,
I don't think it's timely right now to say, hey, will you come be on our team?
yeah.
At least it feels to me like that's pretty premature. I don't know what you think, Matthew. You probably know him better, and you, Carol.
I don't really know him, and I assume that, uh, I think I agree with you. And perhaps it could be relooked at after the official 3 months are over.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good.
Why don't I, in this week, look more closely at seed.org,
Okay, that'd be
without,
great, and
and just see what more is involved with it. And if it means communicating with them, I can do that as a quote unquote private citizen, just inquiring, what some of
uh-huh.
the requirements are if it's not clear. And then we can talk about it next week.
Great.
Okay, that sounds good.
So,
Cows?
Yeah,
cows?
cows. We, as a family, took the drove up to Northern California,
That in
and
itself is a long drive, right? That's a
it's a
real
six
road trip.
it's a 6.5 hour drive that took us 12 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And I ended up staying a couple days later with Jim and Roseanne. And I flew back, but
Mm.
it took them 12 hours to get home again because of kids. You
The
can't
kids.
just
Yeah.
leave them strapped in their car seat for six and a
Yeah.
half without having a chance to go run around.
Oh my
Oh,
So
gosh.
there, so anyway, there was the trip, and then we got there, and we actually stayed at a hotel in Sacramento, and the next morning drove to Blue Pine Farm, where it's Ruth Blue is her name, not Bleau,
Mm.
and she has this property. It probably has 5 houses on it that she has restored and rents out, and that's how she makes her money.
Mhm.
And so she has a very strong business focus. Cows are not how she makes her money. But we got into her Ranger, and there were our whole family, and there was Lee and uh, the Clausens, Lee Clausen, and and Ruth Blue, all in this 2 row seater with a little back part Ranger kind of vehicle to drive around on her property. So she drives us to all the places. We probably were in that thing almost, I'll say at least 3 hours and probably close to four without anything to drink or eat.
Oh
It's like
no.
we just thought she was going to take us to see the cows, but no, we had to know about her whole life experience that led to this. So some of it was about cows, and the cows were lovely. They're Aberdeen, and they are short and bulky, and they have no horns, which all are good things for us at Windermere. And what else about them? They're pretty friendly. I mean,
Are they long hair?
they, no, thank God. I did not want somebody we had to brush. We can't keep up with what we're doing now. But anyway, but what we learned. So she has cows, goats, sheep. She milks the sheep. But the cows are all beef cattle.
Hmm.
So she milks the sheep and makes cheese, which was delicious.
Mhm.
And her place is beautiful. And she really talked about the sustainability. So her sustainability comes from rental houses. And we don't have that at Windermere. I mean, people pay I'll say some people pay when they come and stay for a period of time. I mean, we all do pay some, but she said we have to, things, her suggestion, we need to raise the rent. We need to get a lot of ideas. So there was all of that. She, uh, we are clearly not ready to get any more cows, and we need to get rid of the ones we have. We are not sustainable the way we're going. And so the idea is to, down in the place where the horses used to be, there's about 50 acres that could be divided up into
Paddocks.
five fields. Yeah, paddocks. So, and then each one will have water, it will have cows, it will have food for them. We'll have to feed them, of course, and unless there's enough grass there, because they can eat down the grass. But we have to seed that property so that the grass will grow and things that the cows will eat. There's a lot to it. And she would like to come down and consult with it for a fee, of course. And we're probably going to have her do that. Lee was going to talk to the presidency about it, and I haven't heard anything else yet about when and how this will get set up. So she would drive down with somebody who's one of her helpers and just, yeah, come and walk the land and see what's possible. And she'd be a good consultant uh, about all that.
What's
About all
her
that.
property like?
Her property, I
Where,
don't
where
know
were the
how,
cows?
the cows were in one. So I'll let me see how many. She probably has five quite large, several acre areas of where the cows go, and then she rotates them. So there was one area that had cows and goats, and I don't know if there were sheep in there. All the what she called it, she didn't call it hospital, but the cows ready to give birth, the old cows that still are there. A cow that is injured. This is her. This area. It's down by the road, easy to get to, but big. So she has cleared all this land, plus but left some trees. Apparently, when she got it, she cleared a lot. And then, so then we drove to another area that was another big field. I'm trying to think if so. Some I'm trying to think that second one did not have cows in it at this time, but it's the part of the rotational
Is the
section,
terrain
and
hilly?
very hilly, very
Mhm.
hilly. Yeah. And
So
the
not
area,
not
go
unlike
ahead,
Windermere.
not unlike Windermere, not unlike
Yeah.
Windermere, but I don't think it's quite as dry up there
Mhm.
in Northern California.
Yeah.
But it's still dry all summer. So she waters, she has water, she has NID, which is the uh, Nevada County Irrigation District. Everybody pays into it to get a certain amount of water every month. People who are on the NID list. So she has water. So water has to be set up. Irrigation has to be set up. Uh, so anyway, we went to all of her paddocks, and some of them could have been. I don't know how big an acre is, so I don't know. But her land is not huge. It's just that she moved there with her husband, who's now deceased, and they kept buying up more properties around, and pretty much every property they bought had a house. So anyway, all those properties are turned into different areas where the cows can rotate onto, which is what we need to do. So the cows, I mean, at this point, if we get four of her cows and we get rid of the ones we have, which is next on our list, uh, we will, before that, we have to set up rotational grazing, water, food, how we're going to manage it all. So this is not going to happen at least for a year that we would take that next step.
Mm.
Um, yeah, she felt very connected with me, and so she did a lot of her conversation talking to me with everybody else hearing. But it's not that she was telling only me about it, but I was kind of her focus, so she looked at me a lot. So I think if she comes, if we do have her come, we'll just have that connection. I mean, I think she felt heard by me, and everybody else was able to ask her questions. And it's not like she only talked to me. I'm not meaning it that way. But I
But
think
you had a connection with her. That's
she
great.
felt comfortable. Yeah,
Mhm.
we felt comfortable with each other.
What sort of age person is she? I'm just curious.
She's in her 70s.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, actually, she's 78. She's
Uh-huh.
a year younger than I am.
Oh, right.
No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's turning 80 in the next couple months. I think that's actually true. Yeah. So let's say we're the same age. And she has a lot of energy like I do. But she runs that whole place by herself. But she has by herself meaning, but she has help.
She must be quite a character.
She's quite a character, quite a character.
Well, it sounds like
So
a
it was a fun and worthwhile trip. I'll say that. And, it left us with questions and knowing we have a lot to do and that we don't have to move ahead with any of that until we're ready, which was important for all of us to know so that the pressure is off. Like, even though we had that fundraiser to buy cows, it's like, this is, and we're not doing that right now.
yeah.
You'll recall how many years we had fundraisers for the people person place long before there was a Windermere.
Oh,
We,
yeah.
yeah, every time there was an event, at least on the East Coast, when JYR would come through, it would be a fundraiser for the people person place. And they kept looking all over the country.
Right, right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
I just mentioned that in terms of a timeline.
yeah. Thank
Mhm.
you. That's very helpful. Yeah. And you know, I I don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen. I'm here. I'm here with my family. There's a great level of commitment and things are changing. I mean,
Mhm.
we're getting all the wells set up, and MSIA is really supporting what we're doing up there. And we're all working as volunteers. So that's
Mhm.
and she said, you can't all work it. You can't work as volunteers. You've got to be paid for your work. Well, that's not what we're doing. So,
Mhm.
and I don't think that I have no idea what will happen with that, nor do I have any desire for it to go one way or another. I mean, I certainly don't expect payment for what I do because I just do what I can. But she
And
recognized how much work we're up against
yeah.
because she's lived it.
Well, and that's good, and the practical part of that is, Lee's dream of the cows. She got a good dose of, what that will take.
Mhm.
And it
That's
may
right.
not be something that can be done. I mean, large animals are a bigger deal than small animals.
That's right. That's right.
You can quote me on that.
Okay, Andrew. Yeah, I don't, it's hard to
Words of
say
wisdom.
if it will ever be sustainable, how it will, I shouldn't say if it will ever, but I could say that, or how it will become sustainable
Mhm.
because we don't know yet. I mean, really, the idea was restorative agriculture. There could be orchards, all that's way out there. And then a way to handle the produce and it's like
There's a lot.
people, Windermere isn't going to be supported by farmers markets entirely, like somebody having to go to the farm. In West Virginia, I was great at planting gardens, but where I break down is on my own energy is harvesting everything and then taking it somewhere to sell. I mean, that is not a one-person job.
I go to the farmer's market. One of the vendors who raises organic produce here,
Yep, yep.
there must be 3 or 4 people at the market handling the customers, and probably that many back growing everything.
Yeah,
So,
right, right. So there's a lot to look at, to learn, to explore.
Well,
Maybe let me just say one other sentence, Carol, and that is maybe that's something this committee wants to look at, research. It's like rather than it's the need level before the grant or before, it's that how can sustainability happen? And I don't know that that will happen from an outside source, except except the sources that are within us and with spirit, like just.
Oh, we're just doing that whole thing on listening at the moment, which is really exciting. And who knows, in the silence of our listening, we're just building an energy. I mean, that could be something to do with it.
Yeah. Carol, what were you going to say?
oh, just that, the way I remember, I don't want to ever speak for JR, but the way that I remember things evolving was about the learning that was taking place in the various levels of involvement.
Mm.
And and the more that we I think the more that we that are involved with Windermere in any way at all, if we're processing what's going on and documenting and all that kind of thing, we're getting the most out of the learning experience and get the most out of the learning experience, because I think that's the way JR set things up. Prana was about, you don't like washing floors and toilets and things. Well, guess what? You're going to learn how to do that. And the whole CUP thing in Santa Barbara about Windermere was just that. It was a learning experience. He probably was snickering the whole time. You think you're going to get the CUP? So maybe we're being called now to enrich our own experience by, well, for one thing, what Anne is saying about the listening, applying our listening tools, and everything that we're talking about is just take it in as I don't have a closing statement to say about what I'm thinking, but it's just this. Thank you, JR.
That's beautiful, Carol, because as you were saying that, I thought any of you could use this experience as your inquiry for a PT. It's like it doesn't only have to be just what you're thinking, but like if you took our group and asked questions and what if and what happens if I do this, and I don't know if there's ever been a group PT, but each one of you could do it in your own way about what you're learning.
it would be a Windermere PT, kind of like the 5 blind men and the elephant. We'd all approach it from our own.
What?
We'd all approach Windermere from our own experience and perception and inquiry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll ask Joni if there's ever been a group PT. I mean, I don't know if you're even interested in that, but I'm curious about it now.
Yeah.
But even however, it's like all I can say is I keep thinking of in Korean the things that can become a PT, and it's pretty much any of our experiences that
Yeah.
we keep track of, have questions, and learn from each question, and then find another question and go on. But somehow it comes to an end at some point after we just do the process. It's not the end of life. It's just the end of like, okay, I'm writing it now, kind of thing.
The word,
Anyway, we only have a minute left, so
are we going to call in the light to complete
go for it.
ceremony?
Lovely.
What we did last week was everyone contributed a bit to it. So I'll start and then whoever likes to follow, add something in. Okay, so Father, we ask for the clearing. Father, Mother God, we are so grateful to be in our presence with one another, the service to Windermere, and the growth that's taking place. The growth that's taking place that we may be aware of, and the growth that's taking place that we're not yet aware of. But we recognize it is happening, and we're honored and grateful that we are a part of this stage, sharing and participating. We ask that each one of us, in our own ways, celebrate this partnership, this collaboration. And we ask that anything of a negative nature, any doubts, fears, concerns, lack that may be hanging around us, we ask that it be lifted into the highest realms of life and there be dissolved and transmuted back into the nothingness from which it came. And we ask for the most beautiful column, pure white crystal healing light coming down from the highest realms to ourselves, through Windermere, deep into the center of the earth, uplifting, blessing, and enriching all that is taking place in this beautiful property. And so we are grateful. And I'd like to pass it on to the next person there. Oh,
Light ahead for the highest good. Next.
And light
Column
ahead
of
for the
light.
highest learning.
Yeah. May grace be with us always.
And peace is present here and now.
Amen.
thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
Light
you.
ahead.
God
See you
bless.
next week.
Light to
Yeah.
my tax appointment. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
you bet.
And it occurs to me that maybe it's not timely for David to come.
Yeah,
I don't know that it's like we don't have something to present, but I always give him a report of what we do.
right.
Yeah,
Are you good with that? I think
Yeah, I am.
I think so too.
You guys? Yeah,
you are what?
good with it.
Good with it. Okay, good. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Fantastic.
Bye.
Okay.
Have a great
See you
week.
guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.